Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are live. Welcome everybody to the show. Thank you all very much for tuning in tonight. It is a lovely Friday, summer Friday evening. It is July 25th. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a hell of a show tonight. And you know, I say that every time, to be honest with you, but today really is going to be a hell of a show because we have a lot to talk about. So first off, thank you all very much for tuning in tonight. So today, guys, we got some absolutely massive updates regarding the ongoing Jeffrey Epstein situation that I want to break down with all of you guys, because this entire situation, it's like there's 10 million little micro tidbits coming out day by day. And frankly, it's really hard to keep track of. And so I have a whole, it's almost like a presentation today. We're going to go, you guys, normally I am Matt Morse. Today I am Investigator Morse, okay? I am Detective Morse today because we are going to go through everything that has gone on in the last couple of days to try to make sense of everything that really is going on here, to break it all down piece by piece, parse it out together. And then we're going to get to what happened today because some massive things are going on today. And then at the end, we're going to kind of do a little bit of a retrospective. There's some stuff that actually went on a couple years ago that just now people are kind of unearthing and digging up, and it's adding, and nobody is really talking about it yet. It's kind of like breaking news from a couple years ago, if that makes sense. And it's just now kind of resurfacing, but really it is changing the way that all of this is being looked at. Okay, it's kind of changing the entire narrative. Okay, so it's going to be a good show today. We had a massive super chat to kick things off. First and foremost from Michael P. Thank you very much. He says, God bless Morse Force. God bless you. Thank you very much, everybody in the chat. Folks, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. He's one of the good ones. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to break this down. Let me transition my scene over here. There we go. Folks, I want to start with what happened 2 days ago. Okay, we're going to do a 3-day recap here to kick things off. 2 days ago, a federal judge in the District Court of Southern Florida blocked the Trump administration's request to release the Jeffrey Epstein grand jury documents from between 2005 and 2007. Now, curiously, okay, we need to do a little bit of a background check on this judge. The judge's name that said, listen, Trump admin, you're not going to release any of this stuff, the grand jury filings from 2005 to 2007 as they relate to Epstein. You're not allowed to release any of that. The judge's name is Robin L. Rosenberg. She was appointed by Barack Obama in 2014. She's a Democrat. Now, curiously, this is where it gets really weird with this woman. This woman is actually married. Rosenberg is married to a former Florida state attorney for Palm Beach County. His name is Michael McAuliffe. Okay, that's her husband. This is where the story gets very weird. Michael McAuliffe is an attorney who in 2008 refused to end Jeffrey Epstein's house arrest agreement, despite Epstein violating the terms of this house arrest agreement on numerous occasions. So you guys might remember that in 2008, Jeffrey Epstein was convicted. It was like a 13-month sentence, and most of that time he was under house arrest. He could but as it would turn out, Epstein, during his house arrest segment of his conviction, he was leaving the house. He was going all over town. He was violating the terms of this agreement. And so this attorney, he actually refused. He was the one that said, well, it doesn't matter. Let him come and go. Interestingly enough, just very straight, it's like, that's a small world. So this attorney in 2008 that refused to hold Epstein accountable in 2008 is married to the Obama appointed judge that has now also refused to release the grand jury filings from 2005 to 2007 in the same approximate time frame. That's a little bit weird. So Robin L. Rosenberg's husband played coverage for Epstein in 2008, and now she is doing the same thing in 2025. Curious, small world. I'm sure it's just a random coincidence. Now, beyond that, this happened 2 days ago also on July 23rd, same day that the grand jury filings were shut down by this Judge Rosenberg. The Wall Street Journal reported, as they put it, bombshell news. That's what they said, not me, that President Trump's name is in the Epstein files. Now, here's the thing. So the way they framed this, they said that, I mean, you're looking at the headline here. The Justice Department told Donald Trump in May that his name is among many names in the Epstein files. And I saw this headline 2 days ago. Everybody, this was bait. Everybody bit onto this. Everybody, latched onto this bait here. And I'm like, listen, I've been paying attention to this story. I know a lot of you guys have as well. We have known that Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files to some extent since January of 2025, 7 months ago. We've already known that Trump's name is in the Epstein files for 7 months now. And the reason why is that in January of 2025, court filings got released related to Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit. So you guys know Virginia Giuffre, who is now deceased, rest in peace. She's one of the Epstein victims. She's now dead as of a couple months ago. In 2015, she filed a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein. And in this lawsuit, she says that she first met Jeffrey Epstein in the summer of 2000, the year 2000, 25 years ago, while she was working at Mar-a-Lago. Well, who owns Mar-a-Lago? Donald Trump owns Mar-a-Lago. So the reason why Donald Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files, and we've known about this since January of 2025, 7 months ago, once again, is, it's because he owned Mar-a-Lago and that's where she met Epstein. So this whole bombshell report from the Wall Street Journal, this is actually not a bombshell at all. So once again, this is another classic example of the far left media, the progressive media. We all know the Wall Street Journal is pretty much a media outlet of the DNC. I think it's fair to say that. They're pushing Democrat propaganda effectively. They know exactly what they're doing. Technically, yes. Trump's name is in the Epstein files. Technically, yes. In fact, we've known that for 7 months now. But they're trying to distort that. They're trying to push a certain implication. It's a certain narrative. Hey, everybody, his name is in the files. It's like, well, we already knew that, and we also know why his name is in the files. It's because of this whole Jeffrey lawsuit from 2015. So that was another one of these bombshell pieces of news that came out 2 days ago. Then also 2 days ago, there was another bombshell. The House Oversight Committee actually subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell. We're going to be talking about her a lot today. The House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell, forcing her to testify under oath. Now, when is she going to be doing this? So right now, Ghislaine Maxwell is set to testify under oath on August 11th in the state of Florida. So that's around 2 weeks from now. So assuming nothing weird happens, nothing changes, in around 2 weeks, Ghislaine Maxwell is actually going to be testifying in public under oath, talking about all of this. We had the House Oversight Committee subpoena this. Okay, so that's everything that happened 2 days ago. This was on July 23rd. Now let's talk about July 24th. We had one thing happen, then we're going to talk about everything that's happened today. July 24th, Ghislaine Maxwell, she's already been subpoenaed. She's already going to talk under oath on August 11th. But yesterday, Maxwell actually met with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who's the second highest person in the Department of Justice right under Pam Bondi. And yesterday she met with him for about 4 hours. They had about a 4-hour long discussion, and who knows exactly everything they spoke about, but the Deputy Attorney General met with her for 4 hours yesterday. Todd Blanche took to Twitter yesterday and he said, "Today, I met with Ghislaine Maxwell and I will continue my interview of her tomorrow." That's today. "The Department of Justice will share additional information about what we learned at the appropriate time." Okay, this is what happened yesterday. Well, today, Todd Blanche, the same guy, the Deputy Attorney General of the Department of Justice, he met again with Ghislaine Maxwell for another 4-hour long discussion. So now this guy, Todd Blanche, he has spoken to Maxwell for about 8 hours over the last 2 days. Now, during these discussions, this is something that we found out today. Ghislaine Maxwell was allegedly given, it's called, quote, limited immunity. during these discussions over the last 2 days. And what this means is that she won't and can't be held criminally accountable for anything that she said while talking to the DOJ over the last 2 days. So part of the agreement to get her to talk yesterday and today was, listen, Maxwell, we are going to give you temporary immunity for yesterday's conversation and today's conversation. So we want to get as much information from you. Just be honest, speak freely, and we're not going to hold you criminally accountable. We're not going to add charges onto anything. Right now, you guys know Maxwell is already in prison. She has 5 federal convictions that came through 2.5 years ago or so. She's currently serving a 25-year-long federal prison sentence. So, you know, presumably she doesn't want to have any more charges. So anyway, they gave her a limited immunity. Justin, a couple hours ago, Maxwell was granted limited immunity by the Trump DOJ. This could be to encourage Maxwell to spill everything and to implicate Epstein's client list without incriminating herself. The DOJ could be building cases here, but they have not yet commented on what exactly is going on. Maxwell's attorney said earlier today, that she gave details on more than 100 people with links to Jeffrey Epstein. The ABC source went on to say, the immunity allowed Maxwell to freely answer Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's questions without fear that her responses could be used against her. So this is what happened a couple hours ago. Now, we have a long article, well, it's not too long, going over everything that happened during today's interview, today's conversation between Maxwell and Todd Blanche. We're going to read through this. Ghislaine Maxwell gave DOJ info about 100 different people linked to Jeffrey Epstein, lawyer says. Notorious sex criminal, I'm going to make the font a little bit bigger so you guys can read along with me if you want. Notorious sex criminal Ghislaine Maxwell answered questions from the Justice Department officials about, quote, 100 different people linked to the now deceased PDF file Jeffrey Epstein. An attorney for the disgraced socialite claimed Friday afternoon following 2 days of interrogation by the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. David Oscar Marcus told reporters that his client, currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. I was wrong. I said 25. It's a 20-year prison sentence after being convicted in Manhattan of federal sex trafficking and conspiracy charges in December of 2021, was asked, quote, asked about every possible thing you could imagine, everything. So they're trying to get as much information about this Epstein stuff from her as they possibly can. Believe it or not, this is the first time she was convicted in 2021, so 4 years ago. She has never been interviewed or interrogated by the DOJ ever. This is the first time now, yesterday and today. Can you imagine that? The Biden administration, they just, who cares what she has to say? Maxwell, who cares? She was part of it doesn't matter. Who cares? So anyway, now finally she's being spoken to. This was the first opportunity she's ever been given to answer questions about what happened, Marcus added. The truth will come out about what happened with Mr. Epstein, and she's the person who's answering those questions. Blanche had, quote, every single question answered during the sit-down. Wow. Maxwell's attorney also said, with the British-born convict, that's Maxwell, declining to plead the Fifth Amendment. So, according to Maxwell's attorney, Maxwell yesterday and today allegedly answered every single question that Deputy Attorney General Blanche asked of her, and she never once pleaded the Fifth Amendment. Maybe that's a consequence of her being given limited or temporary immunity. That's pretty astounding. Okay, if she lies, they could charge her with lying, Marcus noted. They did charge her with lying, a reporter challenged him, referring to 2 perjury counts that Marcus noted were dropped by the feds after her conviction in 2021. No one is above the law, and no lead is off limits, Deputy Attorney General Blanche posted on X 3 days ago. when he announced that he would speak to Maxwell. Maxwell, who is 63 years old. So Maxwell is 63 years old. She's going to be serving another 16 years. She's got another 16 years in prison. She's going to die in a prison cell, right? Unless she can work out some type of deal. She wants a pardon. That's what she wants. Okay. And we're going to get to the whole pardon thing here pretty soon. We're going to talk about that, but she's looking at potentially spending the rest of her life in prison. She wants out. What's her motive? Why is she looking to talk? It's because she wants out. Let's keep reading here. Maxwell, 63, is appealing her conviction and sentencing, and legal observers have speculated her willingness to answer questions is tied to a potential clemency grant by President Trump. Okay, we're going to talk about that. That's one of the big pieces of drama of the day. We're going to talk about that in maybe 10 minutes. Her attorney described the commander-in-chief Friday as, quote, the ultimate deal maker, and claimed his client had been treated unfairly for the past 5 years and, quote, didn't get a fair trial. Now, if you want to go into a little bit more detail about Maxwell's argument, and by the way, I don't like, just for the record, I don't like Maxwell. I think she's disgusting. I think she's evil. I think she's just like categorically evil. She's an evil person. However, I want to detail what her legal argument is here. So during the 2008 conviction of Jeffrey Epstein, this is a long time ago now, almost 20 years ago, a condition of Jeffrey Epstein's conviction in 2008 was that all of his co-conspirators would be granted immunity, perpetual immunity, for any wrongdoing that they had done alongside Jeffrey Epstein. That sounds insane, but that is actually what the conditions of Jeffrey Epstein's conviction were in 2008. And so Maxwell is saying, hold up, listen, I was a Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirator. I was right there with him doing all of this evil, terrible stuff. And in accordance with the 2008 conviction, I should have complete and total immunity. So she's not even saying that she's like innocent or that she didn't do anything wrong. She's not even making that argument. She's saying, listen, I am in prison wrongfully right now. I should have never gone to prison in 2021. And the reason why is because I should have total immunity per the 2008 sentence. Okay, that is Maxwell's argument. And so right now, as all of this stuff is happening, Maxwell is also trying to get her case in front of the Supreme Court. Okay, she's been trying to get her case in front of the Supreme Court for the last 4 or 5 months, actually. So, like I said, this is a very complex situation. Trump, who's 79 years old, told reporters after landing in Glasgow, Scotland, that, quote, I don't know anything about the conversation between Blanche and Maxwell because I haven't really been following it. I don't know, maybe he's been busy, who knows. This is no time to be talking about pardons, the president added, after saying hours earlier while leaving the White House that, quote, I haven't thought about the idea. We're going to play that clip here in a minute. In 2022, the Department of Justice expressed doubts that Maxwell could be truthful, writing in court filings that she displayed, quote, a significant pattern of dishonest conduct and failed to take responsibility for her heinous crimes. Once again, from the point of view of Maxwell, Maxwell still to this day maintains her innocence. And the reason why is because she says, hey, I'm wrongfully convicted in accordance with this 2008 immunity thing. So that's where she's coming from. Court papers the prior year revealed that prosecutors never seriously entertained the prospect of offering the woman dubbed Epstein's Madam a plea agreement after the financier was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell, awaiting his own federal trial on October 10th of 2019. According to Marcus, Epstein's attorneys had been informed that, quote, no potential co-conspirators would be prosecuted as part of his talks with government lawyers following his July 2019 arrest on sex trafficking charges. So, and the reason why they would bring this up, the reason why in 2019 Epstein's attorneys had been told that, quote, no potential co-conspirators would be prosecuted, the reason why is once again going back to this 2008 agreement. as insane as that agreement is, it was made nonetheless. Quote, I don't think President Trump knows that the Justice Department took the position that the promise should not be upheld, he claimed. In February, Attorney General Pam Bondi teased a full disclosure of federal investigatory files on Epstein during a Fox News interview, including a purported client list of high-powered associates, but no such reveal has come. Real quick. Okay, we're almost done with this article. On July 6th, the DOJ and FBI put out a 2-page memo disclosing that there was, quote, no credible evidence that 66-year-old Epstein had a, quote, client list or, quote, blackmailed prominent individuals in his sickening exploitation of underage girls, some as young as 14 years old. That memo, that 2-page memo, is a joint memo between the DOJ and the FBI, has caused a lot of drama, right? Absolutely it has. People are not happy about that. They said, quote, we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, the memo also stated. Epstein counted influential politicians and businessmen as his associates, including former President Bill Clinton. We are going to talk about Bill Clinton today, by the way, a little bit. And Microsoft founder Bill Gates and Trump. The 47th president had a falling out with Epstein in 2004 and reportedly later banned him from Mar-a-Lago for acting inappropriately with a club member's daughter. This falling out, guys, I'm actually so happy that they ended the article in this way. They concluded this article talking about how did Epstein and Trump have a falling out? What year did it happen? How did it happen? Now, like I said earlier, sort of in the intro of today's broadcast, there is some kind of old information that nobody really cared about that is resurfacing now regarding this falling out that is in a lot of ways changing how people are looking at this entire dynamic. And we're going to break that down a little bit later in today's show. It does really make you think about all of this. Now, let's get to what President Trump had to say today. I see every so often, I see people in the live chat saying, hey, stop talking. I have to say, it's very funny because anytime I'm not talking about the Epstein situation, people are saying, hey, you need to talk about the Epstein situation. And then anytime I'm not talking about the Epstein situation, people say, or anytime I am talking about it, they say, hey, stop talking about it. This is one of these topics. Listen. Whether or not you like it, this is a big deal. This is news. The entire country is on the edge of their seat. The president of the United States is still talking about this. The DOJ is still talking about this. Just because you don't want to talk about it does not mean I am not going to talk about it. If you don't like it, too bad. This is a big deal, and we're going to keep talking about it. Now, speaking of big deals, let's take a look. Let's see what President Trump has to say about this entire situation earlier today. Okay, this is regarding the pardon.
Would you consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell if
it's something I haven't thought about. It's really something
recommended.
It's something I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
But you wouldn't rule it out, sir?
So what was the question? The question was, President Trump, have you considered pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell? And Trump this morning, he said, this morning, he said, well, it's not something I've thought about, but I technically could do it. That was his answer. Later on in the day, after he arrived over in Scotland, he's now in Scotland right now doing something over in Scotland. He was asked again, and he said, listen, now is not the time to talk about pardons. So I guess technically speaking, if you want to be honest, pardoning Maxwell is not off the table. He has not shut this down. He has not given a concrete firm no, but he has also not given a concrete yes. He has said, I don't know, I haven't thought about it. Now's not the time to talk about it, and it's something I could technically do. Now, let's go ahead and have the very controversial conversation here. Obviously, nobody likes the idea of pardoning Maxwell because she's a disgusting human, right? Obviously, she was a part of all of this. She's terrible. I like I said, I'd call her evil. Now, let's have the uncomfortable conversation. What if pardoning Maxwell meant that we could criminally convict and charge 10 of Epstein's clients? Would it be worth it? Right? These are the type of questions that are being discussed right now, I'm sure, internally within the Trump administration. Okay, yeah, nobody likes the idea of pardoning Maxwell, but what if pardoning Maxwell means that we can convict 5 clients? we get the information to concretely convict 5 people or 10 people or 15 people or 20 people. How many people would it take? It's like, what is the trade-off, right? Nobody likes pardoning Maxwell. However, what if it means that you can criminally convict? What if it means you've got Bill Clinton? He's sitting in a prison cell. You've got Bill Gates sitting in a prison cell. You've got who knows who else? I'm not going to start listing off random names, but it's like, how many people, how many clients of Epstein would have to be criminally held accountable for that pardon to be worth it? One person? Like maybe not. 2 people? 3 people? And so this is the calculus here. This is the math that I'm positive the DOJ right now, right this very moment, I'm sure that they are having these conversations internally. And it is a like terrible, uncomfortable situation. However, that is the situation nonetheless. Now, Donald Trump, in this same interview from earlier this morning, Donald Trump was talking about Bill Clinton. Take a look at this.
Well, I don't want to talk about that. What I do want to say is that Todd is a great attorney, but you ought to be speaking about Larry Summers. You ought to be speaking about some of his friends that are hedge fund guys. They're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. How does he know that? Hold up. How does Donald Trump know for a fact that Bill Clinton went to the island? That's a specific number, right? He could have said a lot of times. He could have said a bunch of times. He could have said numerous times. He said 28, specifically, exactly 28 times. How does he know that? Maybe they've got some intel here.
Saying you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. Where did you see the people laying outside?
And so now this is also one of these narratives that has popped up over the last couple days. As we now know, courtesy of our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, she dropped some bombshell news on us like 3 or 4, 5 days ago now. She came out and said, listen, guys, hey, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, I have the proof, the concrete evidence here to confirm to all of you guys, the American people, that Barack Obama instructed his intelligence community under his leadership at the end of his presidency to fabricate the Russia collusion hoax. They manufactured it out of thin air. We now know it's entirely fraudulent. It was based on the Steele dossier, which was paid for to the tune of $13 million by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. And that's what it was. It was entirely fabricated. And it also went against the previous 6 months worth of intelligence. So we know for a fact that they manufactured this. And so now one of the Trump administration's arguments, and I don't know, it's up to you. Do you think it's a compelling argument? The argument is, listen, guys, the Democrats forged or edited certain parts of the Epstein files. And if you don't believe me, just look at what they did with the Obama stuff, with the Russiagate stuff. So this is one of the Trump administration narratives right now. I think for a lot of people, I'm looking at what people are posting on Twitter. I think a lot of people actually are like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So yeah. So if the Obama administration would fabricate a Russia collusion hoax, maybe they would edit the Epstein files or insert stuff or take stuff out. I don't know. It's up to you to determine how compelling of an argument that is. It's up to you. Now, as all of this is happening, we just talked about Bill Clinton being on this island 28 times. That's a little bit weird. It's a lot of times. That's numerous times. Kevin Spacey has come out and talked specifically about Bill Clinton's association or relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Don't miss this. Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey has now confessed that Bill Clinton rode on Jeffrey Epstein's jet with many, quote, young girls. Clinton and Spacey were on a trip to Africa together for the Clinton Foundation using Epstein's jet. Spacey says the activity he witnesses puts Clinton, quote, at risk. Let's play the clip here.
I was very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to the Old Vic. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights?
There were young girls on those flights, yeah. And that's been out. They've talked about it.
So Kevin Spacey is coming out and saying publicly, there were young girls on the flights with Bill Clinton, and I know this because I was on the flights with them, with the young girls and Bill Clinton. Now, we also know for a fact that this private jet of Jeffrey Epstein had a bedroom in the back of the airplane. Walk back to the back there. There's a door. There's a bed in the back. So not a good look. I don't think you have to use your imagination. You don't have to be particularly creative to imagine what type of disgusting things were going on this airplane.
But here's my point. There's a big difference between not remembering that I met some guy and some woman on a humanitarian trip where my focus was entirely on what we were there to do, and not remembering whether I went to somebody's island. So I never went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. I did not know him, and I never saw him or her after that morning at Buckingham Palace. He didn't even come to Buckingham Palace.
Is it true that Prince Andrew sought your assistance and wanted you to testify that Ghislaine Maxwell was your guest, not his, during that Buckingham Palace talk?
I heard a report about that, but at no time did anyone ever contact me on his behalf. And as I say, I'm not friends with him. I never saw him after that day.
What do you think about what's happened to him?
I don't know anything about it. It's not, I'm not going to talk about someone else's scandal, you know.
Russia, so they've...
Well, I mean, it's what you just did. I have to say, man, Kevin Spacey to me during this little, 90-second long conversation we just listened to, this guy seems like he's got skeletons in his closet. Do you guys get the same vibe here? This guy seems like he is guilty. He's got skeletons in the closet, and he is trying to come out ahead of this. He's trying to get his narrative out ahead of all of this because he is freaking the F out that he's going to get caught up in this. So he's trying to get ahead of it. That's the vibe. This is my opinion. I don't know. I'm just a guy with an opinion, but that's what this seemed like to me. Now, curiously, something worth noting here. When he said he was on the airplane with Bill Gates flying over to Africa, he said Bill Gates, I'm sorry, not Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, I apologize. When he said he was on the private jet with Bill Clinton flying over to do humanitarian work in Africa, there were young girls on the plane. Bill Clinton was there on the plane. Spacey was there on the plane, but Epstein wasn't on the plane. Epstein wasn't there. So Bill Clinton was procuring these allegedly, Bill Clinton was procuring these young girls from Epstein without Epstein even being there. So it seems like Clinton was in deep. He was deep into all of this. If he's doing this stuff when Epstein isn't even present, that's like, all of this is bad, but in my mind, that's like next level bad, right? Now, we're going to move on to a really interesting part of today's broadcast. Folks, I want to introduce you to a guy here. His name is Michael Wolff. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff is a journalist who conducted over 100 hours of recorded interviews with Jeffrey Epstein between the year 2014 and 2017. He sat down one-on-one. The interviews were recorded. Some of them are public, others are not, by the way. Not all of this is publicly available. But Michael Wolff has also gone on to write at least one book about Epstein. He's one of these authority figures. He's like a historian. He's a Jeffrey Epstein historian in a lot of ways. And now, Michael Wolff adds a very interesting little piece of information to this entire Epstein-Trump relationship that maybe a lot of you guys didn't know. And he also writes this in his book as well. Take a look at this.
Epstein believed that Donald Trump...
That was weird.
Epstein believed that Donald Trump went to the Palm Beach police and said, Jeffrey Epstein has young girls at his house, thereby beginning the legal process which would ultimately bring Jeffrey Epstein down.
Okay, so let's unpackage that. I just want to make sure everybody here understands this. This is a journalist who has 100 hours of recorded interviews with Epstein between 2014 and 2017. According to him, Epstein believed that Donald Trump ratted him out or reported him to the police. That's a better way to reported him to the police in 2004, that Trump reported Epstein in 2004 for associating with young girls. And that is actually what kicked off all of Epstein's legal trouble in 2004, 5, 6, 7, and then he was convicted in 2008. I'm going to play this clip one more time just so everybody hears it again.
Epstein believed that Donald Trump...
I don't know why the audio is coming in late here. Okay, one more time.
Epstein believed that Donald Trump went to the Palm Beach police and said, Jeffrey Epstein has young girls at his house, thereby beginning the legal process which would ultimately bring Jeffrey Epstein down.
So this is what Jeffrey Epstein believed, is that the reason why he got caught originally is actually because Donald Trump reported into the police in 2004. Now, we have so far we have heard one predominant narrative regarding the falling out between these two guys, Trump and Epstein. The primary narrative here is that Trump banned Jeffrey Epstein from all of his properties, Mar-a-Lago, all of these other properties that Donald Trump owned in 2005, because Epstein was being a creep. He was hitting on underage, like 16-year-old staff members at Mar-a-Lago or somebody's daughter or whatever at some party. And so this is the leading narrative right now, is that Trump banned Epstein. He got sick of his weird creeper behavior. And by the way, so this allegedly happened in 2005, which is 1 year before Epstein would have ever faced criminal charges. Epstein was first criminally charged in 2006, convicted in 2008. And so the narrative is that Trump banned him in 2005, 1 year before any of that happened. But we have another narrative here that actually predates all of that by one year entirely, going back to 2004, and it relates to what we just heard from Michael Wolff. Now, I don't know how many of you guys know about this. In the middle of 2004, Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump actually got into a bidding war over a very expensive piece of Southern Florida real estate. And this is well documented. You can find all the information about this. This is what the real estate was right on. It was maybe the second or third most expensive Southern Florida beachfront real estate that was down there. And so it's middle of 2004. Jeffrey Epstein wanted to buy this piece of real estate, and Donald Trump wanted to buy this piece of real estate. And they were bidding back and forth against each other for several weeks. And Donald Trump actually ended up winning the bidding war. Donald Trump ended up paying the winning bid of $41.35 million for this piece of beachfront property. This is 2004. And the story goes, and that story is predominantly coming from Michael Wolff, by the way. This guy, Michael Wolff, talks about this whole bidding war situation a lot. And you can actually find web articles talking about the story from 2004 and 2005 on the internet still to this day. And so anyway, the story goes that Epstein and Trump actually, the first time they had this big falling out, this big fissure in their friendship, I guess, whatever you could, their business relationship, whatever you'd call it, actually took place in the middle of 2004 because Jeffrey Epstein felt like Donald Trump should have let him have that property. Michael Wolff goes into detail in his book, actually. I was skimming some of this before I went live today. Michael Wolff said that Epstein felt like, because he was the Florida native, Epstein, he was like Mr. Florida, that Donald Trump should have let him have that property because Epstein's roots were in Florida and Donald Trump is this New York big city guy coming down, buying up real estate. And so that really pissed off Epstein that Trump would outbid him on this Florida property. He felt like, hey, I'm the Florida guy. You know what I mean? So according to Michael Wolff, that is really what broke up this relationship. But then you have this side narrative that because Donald Trump was so pissed off mutually at Epstein, the hatred started going both ways, that Donald Trump actually, to kind of like get back at Epstein because of this bidding war over this piece of real estate, that Donald Trump actually reported Epstein to the police, and that Donald Trump reported Epstein to the police because of the bidding war. They started hating each other. This bidding war was kind of the catalyst for all of this. And Donald Trump said, all right, you know what, dude? Guess what? I'm going to the cops. You messed with the wrong guy, because Epstein was calling all types of names and they were trash talking each other. And so that's a big part of the narrative here. And I'm gonna actually add one more primary source here that is actually going to corroborate this entire story. So now I want to introduce a guy that's going to make this entire situation make a lot more sense. This guy's name here is attorney Bradley Edwards. Bradley Edwards is here on the right side of the screen, the guy in the suit. Bradley Edwards represented over 70 of Jeffrey Epstein's victims in 2008. So he was the legal representative of 70 of Jeffrey Epstein's victims in 2008. So take a look at what this guy had to say a couple years ago. I guarantee you've never seen this. This video is going to blow your mind. Let it play.
Obviously, our current president has had relationships with Epstein in the past, and there are those Katie Johnson and maybe other victims who have accused Trump of being involved in things like this. In my experience, Trump supporters will not listen to anything along those lines. Obviously, we're not a court of law here right now, but are those claims, though that case was dropped, it was dropped before it went to court. In your opinion as a lawyer and your experience, is there anything you can say as to the validity of those claims, or whether or not there will be any more about that?
Nothing at all. The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
And that was in 2009?
That was in 2009. So,
do you know if there's any truth to James Patterson's claims that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago?
I've definitely heard that.
Obviously.
Okay, so that's a bombshell, right?
So, David, what else did Max?
That's a bombshell right there. Whoops, my bad. So let's like break down exactly what that means. Can I flip on my full camera here? What does that mean? That means that this entire narrative that Donald Trump had a really egregious falling out with Epstein in 2004 over the bidding war, that Donald Trump then went on to report Jeffrey Epstein to the police in 2004, that in 2005, Donald Trump went on to ban Epstein from all of his properties. And then in 2009, Donald Trump actually volunteered information. He didn't have to. He didn't have to be taken into deposition or subpoenaed or anything. Donald Trump actually called the attorney up representing these 70 Epstein victims in 2009 and said, hey, listen, I'll tell you everything you want to know. Whatever you need to know. This is 2009. Donald Trump was volunteering as much information as he needed. And so I'm sharing this information with you guys today because I think it really adds on a lot of context here. So one of the big narratives here is that Donald Trump is not releasing Epstein information because he's guilty and he's trying to cover up for himself. Listen, you guys know how I feel about this. I also want more information. I've been very publicly outspoken about my desire for more information. We need to have more information. I've been saying this for 2 weeks. However, genuinely, I do not believe that Donald Trump is criminally implicated in these Epstein files. I don't. In fact, I think we have numerous sources. I just showed you 2 of them that indicate the exact opposite. Donald Trump seems to have a 21-year history of not just disassociating from Jeffrey Epstein, but also working with the police and working with the defense attorney of Epstein's victims to help criminally punish Epstein. And so this is kind of what I'm thinking. Why would Donald Trump get so aggressively involved against Epstein, working with the police and helping stick up for these girls, the victims, if he was implicated in any way? Because if Epstein had any dirt at all on Donald Trump to implicate him in any of these sexual crimes, etc., then Donald Trump would probably want to stay way the hell away from this entire situation, because, you know, Epstein would be able to torch Donald Trump if he wanted to, because he's got blackmail on him or he's got proof on him. So I'm with a lot of you guys insofar as, yes, we need more information. Yes, we need accountability. And by the way, getting more information and getting accountability, it's not just about getting justice for Epstein's victims. That's a huge part of it. That's a massive deal. It's also about exonerating anybody innocent who is involved in any of this, loosely or tangentially involved in any of this. And that could be Donald Trump. It could be other people. But right now, kind of the default assumption by like over half of the country is that, and I think this is an improper conclusion or improper assumption, but it is a common assumption nonetheless, is that anybody that ever shook hands with Epstein over the last 25 years is immediately guilty and they're a sexual predator, right? And I just don't think that's the case. Certainly multiple people are, but not all of them. And so once again, releasing more information, it is yes, about getting justice for the girls that were abused. That's very important. And holding these people accountable, these predators accountable, but also it is about, sorry, we have a spammer in the chat. Give me 1 second here. But also it is about exonerating people that are innocent, and that's also very important. So, you know, right now we have two big developments. Right now, at the moment, the DOJ is currently still getting more information from Ghislaine Maxwell. They've spoken to her for 8 hours over the last 2 days. And as we said earlier, allegedly, as a consequence of the last 2 days, these interviews with Maxwell from the last 2 days, allegedly we have a list of 100 names, about 100 names that were close affiliates or clients of Epstein, according to Maxwell. And then also Maxwell is set to testify under oath in early August on August 11th. So for anybody that's saying that nothing is happening, that we're not getting any developments, I think things are happening slowly. This stuff takes time, but I'm with you. I want more information, and it seems like we are slowly getting more information. So the situation is ongoing, but as you all know, I am very happy that we are finally getting more information. It seems like Trump, listen, this is one of the things that I really like about Trump here. Trump genuinely wants to make his base happy and make his supporters happy. Trump is a populist. He wants to be liked. He wants to have a high approval rating. Trump cares about that, right? Trump has for 9 years. He's got a pretty good track record of listening to his base, of listening to his supporters. And so I got to say, I feel a little bit vindicated. I remember 10 days ago, 14 days ago, we were talking about Epstein stuff as this was coming out 2 weeks ago. And there were people in the chat saying, hey, listen, Matt Morris, you need to shut up about this. Stop talking about this. And I had to put my foot down. I said, no, this is a big deal. And we need to let Trump know. We need to let the Trump administration know that we want more information here, that we are dissatisfied. And you know what? We have not relented. We have not let up the pressure. And where are we 2 weeks? 2 weeks later, where are we today? We are getting more information. We already have more information. Things are moving along. Why? Because we, the electorate, we, the American people, have been exercising our First Amendment rights. We have been holding our leadership accountable, as we ought do, as we should do, as good patriotic Americans. So that's where we are with this entire Epstein situation. That's all the news we have today. That's where we're at. I guess that's probably a pretty good wrap-up point, guys. I want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Thank you very much. I wanted to go live and try to shed some light and make sense of this entire situation. I feel like we've done a pretty good job of that today. So thank you all for bearing with me and frankly, helping me make sense of this. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That really helps a lot. I appreciate that. Make sure to like today's video. And I will be back tomorrow. We'll have some more videos and some more live streams. It's going to be Saturday, so it's going to be a good day. So thank you all very much. Have a great Friday night. Thank you all for tuning in. You know what? One thing I have to do it before we go. I have to do it. Everybody, make sure to follow on Twitter. My name is Matt Morris TV on Twitter or X, Matt Morris TV. There it is. Drop a follow there too. It helps a lot. Thank you all very much. I am out of here.